Preface of Three Girls in a Flat. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Ann Howlett. Three Girls in a Flat by Enid Yandell, Jean Loughborough, and Laura Hayes. Preface. We beg to assure our readers that we do not consider this little book in any way a literary effort. It is a simple story which really wrote itself, and it is with great modesty and hesitation that we cast it upon the sea of public opinion. End of preface. Chapter 1 of Three Girls in a Flat by Enid Yandell, Jean Loughborough, and Laura Hayes. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ann Howlett. Chapter 1 Our Flat. It was growing late, and Jean and the Duke were dressing for dinner in the great dreary room in the boarding-house owned in partnership by the girls. The Duke had let down the masses of her blue-black hair, while Jean was engaged in untangling a refractory shoelace, when a little knock came at the door, and a moment after Marjorie entered. She looked pale and worn, and as the girls looked up with a welcoming smile, Jean said, "What's the matter, dear? You look so tired tonight." Marjorie threw herself into a chair and said, "It's the flat again. I have just had a note from Mrs. Black, saying that owing to a sudden change in her husband's business they have been called to New York, and now that white elephant is on my hands once more." "What is the flat?" asked the Duke with interest. "Why, don't you know?" said Jean. "It has been the bane of Marjorie's existence for the last 2 years, for it contains all her mother's furniture, which she does not want to store, and the people to whom she rents it are always getting sick or leaving town, or for some reason or other giving it up, so it is on her hands again." "Where is it?" demanded the Duke. "Why, it is only 2 blocks down the street, and in a very pleasant neighborhood, and for my part I wish we lived in it instead of in this dreary old boarding-house where we can't get a thing to eat if we are not on time for meals." "Why not go to housekeeping?" cried the Duke, and the same thought came like a flash to all three, and then and there, regardless of the approaching dinner, they sat down to discuss eagerly the ways and means of accomplishing their object. 2 weeks later the girls came home to their own hearth and fireside. They had brought 2 friends with them to spend the night, and when the 5 girls gathered around the snowy table with its bunch of flowers, in the pretty dining-room, with its sideboard full of the beautiful old-fashioned silver that had belonged to Marjorie's mother, it was with the happiest feeling they had all known for many a day. The neat little maid who had worked in the flat for the preceding occupants had stayed with them, and no one would ever have guessed from the way in which she served the dinner that it had all been cooked by herself in the little kitchen beyond. It was not a very large suite of rooms, just 7, but they were comfortable and very light, having side windows that overlooked a field of waving grass, an unusual thing in the city. The Duke, who was standing at the dining-room window when I first read this chapter aloud, interrupted to say that I had forgotten to mention the adornments of the field, which consisted of a rusty stove, 2 battered silk hats, an old tin bath-tub with a hole in it, 10 tomato cans, and the janitor's 6 children. There was the parlor with its cheerful firelight, the little library with its pictures, copies for the most part, of famous paintings, and its rows of books in their leather-trimmed cases, and the dining-room and kitchen. Then there was a room apiece for the girls. But I must not forget to mention one of the most important features of all, the hammock in the library. This great soft web of blue and white, which swung in the half-darkness and yet gave a glimpse of the ruddy hearth in the parlor beyond, was a favorite resort of 1, 2, and sometimes 3 tired girls, who could escape through the library door to their own rooms at the importunate ring of the door-bell. There had been one subject that had nearly wrecked their plans of housekeeping, and this had been the question of a chaperone, which they had discussed for
Sample complete. Ready to continue?